Your own workshop represents a practical demonstration of these principles. Workers who feel valued and respected produce superior craftsmanship while developing skills that serve them throughout their careers. The business succeeds financially, while contributing to worker advancement and community development. Creating good working conditions isn't expensive. It's profitable. You explain to other employers the costs of worker replacement, training, and poor quality work far exceed the investments required for reasonable wages and safe working conditions. The apprentices you've trained carry forward both technical knowledge and values that emphasize excellence, integrity, and mutual respect. These young craftsmen will influence construction practices for decades, spreading approaches that serve both practical and moral objectives. Teaching young workers isn't just about transferring technical skills, you observe. It's about demonstrating that professional success and human decency are compatible rather than competing values. As construction techniques continue evolving through new technologies and changing social expectations, the fundamental lessons of castle building remain relevant. Individual competence matters, but it must be combined with collaborative effort and institutional support. Technical excellence serves human purposes, not abstract ideals. Sustainable achievement requires recognizing rather than violating human dignity. The specific techniques we use to build Caerphilly Castle will be superseded by better methods. You tell your final class of apprentices before retirement. But the principles we learned about combining individual excellence with group effort will remain relevant as long as people work together to accomplish difficult objectives. The castle itself stands as a permanent reminder of what human effort can accomplish when skilled workers collaborate on well-designed projects under competent leadership. Its stones will endure for centuries, but the knowledge and values developed during its construction represent equally lasting achievements. Your transformation from desperate village laborer to respected master craftsman illustrates possibilities for individual advancement that exist when societies create opportunities for competent people to develop their capabilities. That lesson remains as relevant today as it was when you first decided to accept the risks and challenges of royal construction service. Standing before the completed walls of Caerphilly Castle on a quiet Welsh morning, you reflect on the long journey that began with desperate hunger and a recruitment poster promising steady wages. The massive stones around you represent more than architectural achievement. They embody the accumulated skills, shared knowledge, and persistent effort of hundreds of workers who transformed individual limitations into collective capability. Morning light reveals details of stonework that few observers will ever notice. The precise joints that distribute stress loads, the subtle variations in stone selection that optimize structural performance, the integration of defensive systems with architectural beauty. These details represent thousands of individual decisions made by craftsmen working at the limits of their abilities under demanding conditions. Every stone tells a story of human effort, you murmur, running your hand along surfaces shaped by workers whose names have been forgotten, but whose skills created something permanent and meaningful. Some of those stories ended in triumph, others in tragedy, but all contributed to this remarkable achievement. The transformation from raw materials to finished fortress required not just technical knowledge, but social cooperation that overcame natural human tendencies toward competition and self-interest. Workers from different backgrounds learned to trust each other with their lives while pursuing shared objectives that transcended individual concerns. Castle building taught us that human beings can accomplish remarkable things when they combine individual excellence with mutual support. You reflect? That lesson applies to every aspect of life, not just construction projects. The evolution of your own capabilities from inexperienced laborer to master craftsman demonstrates possibilities for human development that exist when challenging opportunities are combined with competent teaching and institutional support. The skills and knowledge you've acquired serve not only professional objectives, but personal growth that enhances every aspect of life. But the castle also bears witness to the human costs of achievement pursued without adequate attention to worker welfare. The unmarked graves outside the construction site remind you that progress purchased through systematic abuse of human dignity creates victories that are ultimately hollow. We learn to build magnificent structures, you acknowledge, but we also learned that how we build matters as much as what we build. The methods we use shape the meaning of our achievements. The apprentices you trained carry forward technical knowledge, enriched by values that emphasize both excellence and human dignity. Their work will influence construction practices throughout England while demonstrating that professional success and moral integrity can reinforce rather than conflict with each other. The best monument to the workers who built this castle is ensuring that future construction projects honor their memory by protecting the welfare of current workers. You tell young craftsmen who visit the site, every safe workplace and fair employment practice validates the sacrifices made by previous generations. The broader transformation of construction practices during your career validates the belief that institutional change is possible when individual resistance to abuse combines with practical demonstration of better alternatives. The brutal conditions that once characterized royal projects have given way to more sustainable approaches that serve both human and organizational interests. Change happens slowly, but it does happen when people refuse to accept unnecessary suffering and work systematically to create better alternatives. You observe individual acts of resistance and improvement accumulate into institutional transformation. As you prepare to leave Caerphilly Castle for perhaps the final time, you carry with you both the satisfaction of significant achievement and the responsibility of preserving lessons learned through challenging experience. The technical knowledge will benefit future construction projects, but the human insights may prove even more valuable for creating institutions that serve rather than exploit human potential. The stones will endure long after everyone who placed them has been forgotten, but the principles learned during their placement can influence human relationships as long as people work together to accomplish difficult objectives. That legacy, invisible but permanent, may be the most important achievement of the men who built England's greatest fortress. The Welsh countryside around Caerphilly Castle has returned to its natural rhythms, but the fortress itself stands as permanent evidence that human effort, properly organized and skillfully applied, can create achievements that transcend the limitations of individual lives. That knowledge, carved in stone and sealed with mortar mixed by human hands, remains available to inspire future generations facing their own challenges and opportunities. Your footsteps echo across the courtyard where hundreds of workers once labored to create something larger than any individual could accomplish alone. The echo fades, but the stones remember, and through their silent testimony, they continue teaching lessons about human potential, collective achievement, and the essential connection between means and ends in all human endeavors. The castle is complete. Your work is finished, but the story continues in every construction project that applies. Lessons learned through the challenging experience of building England's most magnificent fortress. That continuation represents the truest success. Knowledge that serves future generations while honoring the memory of those who paid the price for its acquisition. The relationships formed during castle construction have created a network of professional colleagues and personal friends that will provide support and opportunities throughout your career. These connections represent one of the most valuable benefits of royal service. Castle builders form a brotherhood based on shared experience of extraordinary challenges, notes Geoffrey Carpenter. These relationships create opportunities for cooperation and mutual assistance that last for decades. Your reputation as a castle veteran opens doors to employment opportunities that would otherwise be unavailable to someone from a village background. Civilian contractors actively recruit workers with Royal construction experience, offering positions with better working conditions and advancement possibilities. Royal service is like attending a university for construction professionals. Observes Master Thomas. The education is expensive in terms of personal cost, but it creates qualifications that enable lifelong career success. The skills developed through castle construction prove transferable to a wide range of civilian building projects, cathedral construction, bridge building, manor house development, and commercial construction all benefit from the advanced techniques learned during fortress building. Your transition to civilian employment demonstrates that Royal service can serve as a pathway to career advancement for workers willing to accept the challenges and risks involved. The key is surviving the experience with sufficient health and competence to capitalize on the opportunities that expertise creates. Castle construction nearly killed me, you acknowledge, but it also gave me the skills and knowledge necessary for a successful career in civilian construction. The trade-off was worthwhile. Though I wouldn't want to repeat the experience, 5 years after completing work on Caerphilly Castle, you've established yourself as a master craftsman whose expertise in advanced construction techniques has earned recognition throughout the English building industry. Your workshop employs apprentices who benefit from training methods refined through your own challenging experience with Royal construction. The castle itself has proven its worth through successful defense against multiple Welsh attacks, validating the engineering principles and construction techniques that made its completion possible. The fortress serves its intended military functions while standing as a monument to medieval architectural achievement. Caerphilly Castle demonstrates what human effort can accomplish when skilled workers collaborate on well-designed projects. You tell your apprentices during training sessions, the techniques we use there represent centuries of accumulated knowledge applied to specific defensive requirements. Your teaching methods emphasize safety awareness and systematic skill development, based on lessons learned through dangerous experience. Apprentices receive thorough training in hazard recognition and emergency procedures that weren't available during your own learning period. Master teaches us that staying alive is more important than working fast, reports young William Fletcher, your most promising student. He says that careful work produces better results than hasty work, and that protecting workers protects the quality of construction. The workshop you've established specializes in projects that require advanced stonework and complex engineering, drawing on expertise developed during castle construction while serving civilian clients. Churches, bridges, and manor houses provide opportunities to apply fortress building techniques to peaceful purposes. Your business practices reflect lessons learned about the relationship between worker welfare and construction quality. Employees receive fair wages, reasonable working hours, and comprehensive training that develops both technical skills and safety awareness. Treating workers well isn't just moral obligation, it's practical business strategy. You explain to other contractors, competent, motivated workers produce better results than workers who are abused or taken advantage of. The success of your approach influences other civilian employers, who observe that reasonable treatment of workers contributes to profitability rather than undermining it. Several competitors have adopted similar management practices after discovering that good working conditions attract better employees. Your personal story has become part of the oral tradition shared among construction workers throughout England, providing encouragement for men facing their own career challenges while illustrating the possibilities for advancement through competence and persistence. His example shows that royal service can be survived and used as a foundation for civilian success, observes Robert Clark during a gathering of construction professionals. That knowledge gives hope to workers who might otherwise see royal employment as a dead end. The informal network of castle construction veterans has evolved into a professional association that provides mutual support, shares technical knowledge, and maintains standards of excellence throughout the industry. These connections create opportunities for collaboration on large projects while preserving the specialized knowledge developed through royal service. But your legacy extends beyond professional achievements to include the apprentices and journeymen who have learned advanced techniques through your teaching. These workers carry forward both technical knowledge and values that emphasize quality, safety, and mutual respect in professional relationships. The best way to honor the men who died building Caerphilly Castle is ensuring that future construction projects don't repeat the mistakes that cost their lives. You tell young workers, every apprentice who learns to work safely carries forward the memory of workers who weren't given that opportunity. The transformation from desperate village laborer to respected master craftsman demonstrates that individual advancement is possible through sustained effort and willingness to accept challenging opportunities. Your success validates the belief that competence and character matter more than inherited social position. As you approach the end of your active career in construction, 20 years after first arriving at the Caerphilly Castle site, you reflect on the lessons learned through decades of building experience that began with that desperate decision to accept royal employment. The knowledge gained through challenging circumstances has shaped not only your professional success, but your understanding of human potential and social responsibility. Castle construction taught fundamental lessons about the relationship between individual effort and collective achievement. No single worker could build a fortress, but coordinated effort by skilled teams could create structures that seemed impossible. When viewed from individual perspectives, castle building demonstrated that ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things when they work together effectively. You explained to a group of young craftsmen the key is combining individual competence with group coordination, and Shaw, the experience also revealed the importance of leadership that serves rather than exploits the people being led. Master craftsmen who shared knowledge and supported worker development achieved better results than supervisors who relied on authority and intimidation. Good leadership means helping people become more capable rather than simply demanding obedience. You observe, workers who understand why they're doing specific tasks perform better than workers who simply follow orders without comprehension. The technical aspects of castle construction illustrated principles of systematic problem-solving that apply to challenges far beyond building projects, breaking complex tasks into manageable components, developing specialized skills while maintaining awareness of how they contribute to larger objectives, learning from mistakes while maintaining confidence in ultimate success. Construction work teaches systematic thinking that serves people throughout their lives. You tell your apprentices, the planning and problem-solving skills we develop here apply to family life, civic responsibilities, and personal growth as well as professional challenges. Perhaps most importantly, castle construction demonstrated the essential connection between individual dignity and institutional success. Projects that respected worker welfare achieved better results than those that treated workers as expendable resources. Protecting human dignity isn't just moral obligation. It's practical requirement for sustainable achievement. You reflect during discussions with other master craftsmen. Organizations that consume their people ultimately consume themselves. The evolution of construction practices during your career has validated this principle as employers discovered that reasonable treatment of workers contributes to rather than competing with operational effectiveness. The brutal conditions that characterized early royal projects have given way to more sustainable approaches that serve both human and institutional interests. Red commitment to quality standards. The quality of stonework actually improves during summer months, as optimal conditions allow craftsmen to achieve their highest levels of precision and efficiency. Master masons take advantage of favorable conditions to complete their most demanding tasks while teaching advanced techniques to apprentices. Autumn brings urgency, as project managers recognize that winter will again limit construction activities. Crews work to complete critical phases before cold weather forces suspension of vulnerable operations. Planning for winter protection of completed work becomes a major activity. Autumn is racing season when we try to finish everything that can't survive winter exposure, explains Master Thomas. The quality of our autumn work often determines whether we'll have progress or problems when spring construction resumes. The psychological pressure of autumn deadlines affects everyone involved in construction. Workers push themselves harder, while managers make difficult decisions about which activities to prioritize and which to postpone until favorable conditions return. Winter provides opportunities for different types of work that complement outdoor construction activities, tool making and repair, planning for the next construction season, training programs that develop skills during periods when outdoor work is limited. Winter is thinking season when we evaluate progress and plan improvements. Master William explains, the lessons learned during construction get incorporated into revised techniques and procedures. Indoor work during winter months allows craftsmen to pursue detailed projects that require extended concentration, carved decorations, specialized tools, and complex wooden components often get completed during winter periods when outdoor conditions prevent other activities. The annual cycle of construction seasons creates natural phases for project evaluation and worker development. Each season brings specific learning opportunities while contributing to the gradual accumulation of skills and experience that transforms inexperienced workers into competent craftsmen. Understanding seasonal rhythms is part of becoming a mature construction professional, reflects Thomas Whitmore. You learn to plan your work and your career around the natural cycles that govern building activities. After 18 months of intensive construction, Caerphilly Castle nears completion as the final phases of building require integration of all the technical systems and craft specialties that have been developed separately throughout the project. This culminating period tests everyone's abilities while demonstrating the remarkable achievement that systematic effort can accomplish. The installation of defensive machinery represents some of the most technically demanding work of the entire project. Catapults, ballistae, and other siege engines must be precisely positioned and securely anchored to function effectively during military operations. This work requires coordination between stonemasons, carpenters, and metalworkers operating at the highest levels of their crafts. Defensive weapons are what transform architectural achievement into military capability, explains Master William during the installation of a massive catapult system. All of our construction work serves the ultimate purpose of creating a platform. For these weapons, the mechanical complexity of siege engines requires understanding of leverage principles, stress distribution, and material science that represents medieval engineering at its most sophisticated. Learning to install and maintain this equipment provides valuable education in advanced technical concepts. Gate systems receive final installation. During the completion phase, as the complex mechanisms for operating portcullises and drawbridges are fitted into the architectural spaces prepared for them. These installations require millimeter precision to ensure reliable operation under the stress conditions of actual military use. Gate mechanisms must work perfectly because soldiers' lives depend on them, notes Master Thomas while supervising the installation of counterweight systems. Equipment failure during military operations means the difference between successful defense and catastrophic defeat. The integration of water systems throughout the castle complex requires careful testing to ensure reliable operation during siege conditions when external water sources might be controlled by enemies. Wells, cisterns, and distribution systems must function flawlessly under emergency conditions. Interior finishing work proceeds simultaneously with military installations as craftsmen complete the living spaces that will house garrison troops and noble residents. This work requires different skills from fortress construction while maintaining the same standards of quality and durability. Castle interiors must serve both military and residential functions, explains Master Edmund while demonstrating advanced stone carving techniques. Defensive requirements determine the basic architecture, but human comfort influences the detailed finishing. The final stonework includes decorative elements that demonstrate the artistic capabilities of medieval craftsmen while serving practical functions for fortress identification and psychological warfare. Carved heraldic symbols, architectural details, and defensive features combine aesthetic achievement with military purpose. Quality control procedures intensify during the completion phase as master craftsmen conduct systematic inspections of all construction work. These evaluations identify potential problems before they can affect fortress performance, while ensuring that finished work meets the exacting standards required for royal projects. Final inspection is when we verify that every component of the castle meets the specifications required for effective military service. Master William explains while conducting detailed examinations of wall construction. Any defects discovered now must be corrected before the castle enters operational status. The inspection process provides valuable learning opportunities as workers observe master craftsmen evaluating the quality of work they've performed throughout the construction period. These assessments help everyone understand the standards expected for professional level construction. The completion of major construction phases allows workers to observe the integrated performance of systems they've been building separately. Seeing how individual components contribute to overall fortress capability provides satisfaction and perspective that justify the intensive effort required for castle construction. Watching the complete castle function as a unified defensive system makes all the hard work worthwhile. You reflect while observing gate operations and weapon systems. We've created something that will protect English interests for generations. 2 years after beginning work on Caerphilly Castle, you've been transformed from an inexperienced village laborer into a skilled construction professional whose expertise is valued throughout the English building industry. The knowledge and capabilities developed through royal service have created opportunities for advancement that seemed impossible when you first answered the recruitment call. Your technical skills now include advanced stonework, complex rigging operations, and construction management techniques that qualify you for supervisory positions on major projects. The training provided by Royal Construction has been intensive and comprehensive, creating capabilities that civilian employers value highly. Royal project workers are prized employees because they've learned to perform complex tasks under demanding conditions, explains Master Cooper, a civilian contractor who has hired several castle veterans. Men who can build fortresses can handle any construction challenge, but the personal cost of this professional development has been significant. Months of intensive physical labor have left permanent marks on your health and physical capabilities. Chronic back problems from lifting heavy stones, scars on hands and arms from tool injuries and rope burns, respiratory problems from extended exposure to stone dust and mortar lime. Castle construction ages workers faster than normal employment, acknowledges Master William during a discussion of career planning. The physical demands are so intense that few people can sustain this work for extended periods. The psychological impact of castle construction proves even more significant than physical effects. Months of high-stress work under dangerous conditions have created anxiety responses and sleep problems that persist even after leaving the construction site. The constant vigilance required for survival in dangerous environments becomes a permanent aspect of personality. You never completely stop scanning for potential hazards. You explained to Thomas Whitmore during a conversation about adjusting to civilian employment. Castle work teaches you that inattention can be fatal, and that lesson doesn't fade when you move to safer jobs. But castle construction has also provided positive psychological benefits that offset the stress-related problems. The satisfaction of contributing to a historically significant achievement. The confidence that comes from mastering difficult technical challenges. The pride of professional competence earned through demanding experience. Building Caerphilly Castle was the most difficult thing I've ever done. You reflect, but it was. Also the most meaningful. We created something remarkable that will serve important purposes for centuries. Tower construction represents the most technically demanding aspect of castle building. Towers must be perfectly circular to eliminate weak corners that siege weapons could exploit, requiring mathematical precision in layout and stone cutting. That pushes medieval geometry to its limits. A tower that's even slightly out of round becomes vulnerable to concentrated attack. Master Edmund explains while demonstrating the geometric techniques used for circular construction. We use rope and stake methods to establish perfect circles, then cut every stone to maintain that geometry as the tower rises. The spiral staircases built into castle towers require three-dimensional stone cutting that represents the highest level of medieval craftsmanship. Each step must be precisely shaped to maintain consistent rise and run while following a helical path that maximizes defensive advantage. You're assigned to assist with tower construction, providing opportunities to observe master craftsmen working at the peak of their abilities. The experience reveals both the technical sophistication of medieval engineering and the incredible skill levels achieved by experienced practitioners. Gate construction combines architectural complexity with mechanical engineering as builders. Install the systems of portcullises, drawbridges, and defensive chambers that control access to the castle. These installations require precise coordination between stonework, metalwork, and wooden machinery. Castle gates are the most vulnerable points in fortress defense, so they receive the most sophisticated protection systems, explains Master William. Every component must work perfectly because failure of any element compromises the entire defensive scheme. The mechanical systems used for operating gates and drawbridges represent advanced medieval technology. Counterweight systems, gear trains, and pulley arrangements multiply human strength while providing the reliability essential for defensive equipment. Water management throughout the castle complex requires sophisticated hydraulic engineering, wells, drains, and water distribution. Systems must function reliably during siege conditions when external water sources might be controlled by enemies. A castle without adequate water becomes indefensible, regardless of how strong its walls might be. Notes Master Thomas. Water systems are as important as military architecture for successful fortress operation. The integration of all these technical systems into a unified defensive complex represents medieval engineering at its most sophisticated level. Successful castle construction requires coordinating dozens of specialized crafts while maintaining standards that leave no room for significant error. By spring, the construction community has developed its own social structure and cultural patterns that reflect both medieval hierarchies and the unique demands of castle building. Relationships between workers at different skill levels create networks of mutual dependence and shared knowledge that enable success in challenging technical and physical environments. The master craftsmen who direct technical operations have earned their positions through decades of experience with complex construction projects. Their authority derives from demonstrated competence rather than inherited status, creating meritocratic leadership that workers respect and trust. Master William de Chester exemplifies this earned authority. His decisions about construction techniques and work organization are accepted without question, because workers understand that his expertise represents their best hope for successful project completion. His willingness to explain technical principles and share knowledge creates learning opportunities that benefit everyone involved. Master William treats workers like junior colleagues rather than expendable laborers. observes Thomas Whitmore. He understands that our success depends on everyone understanding their role in the larger enterprise. The skilled craftsmen who implement technical decisions occupy a crucial middle position between planning and execution. These journeyman masons, carpenters, and specialists translate complex engineering concepts into practical work instructions that common laborers can follow effectively. Robert Clayworth, the foreman who supervised your initial training, represents this essential bridging function. His ability to communicate clearly with workers at all skill levels makes him invaluable for maintaining coordination between different aspects of construction. Good foremen are teachers as much as supervisors, Clayworth explains. Our job is helping people develop the skills they need to contribute effectively while ensuring that quality standards are maintained. Common laborers provide the physical strength and persistence necessary for moving massive quantities of materials and performing the repetitive tasks that support skilled work. Though positioned at the bottom of the construction hierarchy, their contributions are essential for project success. Your own development from inexperienced village laborer to competent construction worker illustrates the opportunities for advancement that castle building provides for motivated individuals. Learning multiple skills while demonstrating reliability has earned you increased responsibility and better work assignments. Construction work rewards competence and commitment, notes Martin DeGray, whose own advancement from laborer to supervisor demonstrates the possibilities for career development. Men who master their trades and show leadership ability can advance regardless of their background. The apprenticeship system that governs skill development creates formal relationships that serve educational and social functions. Experienced workers take responsibility for training newcomers, while apprentices provide assistance with routine tasks. These relationships often develop into lasting friendships that persist beyond specific projects. My training under master Edmond taught me more than stone-cutting techniques. You reflect after completing your apprenticeship period. He showed me how to think about complex problems and plan work systematically. Those lessons apply to every aspect of life. The informal networks that develop among workers serve multiple functions beyond technical training. They provide emotional support during difficult periods, share information about working conditions and opportunities, and create collective responses to challenges that affect everyone. Evening conversations in worker accommodations become forums for discussing technical problems, sharing news from home, and maintaining morale during extended periods away from family and familiar surroundings. These social connections help sustain motivation despite the physical and psychological demands of castle construction. The friendships formed during castle construction often last for life, observes Jeffrey. Carpenter. Men who have worked together under demanding conditions develop trust and mutual respect that creates lasting bonds. The collaborative nature of castle construction requires workers at all levels to coordinate their efforts, while maintaining individual competence in specialized areas. Success depends on everyone understanding how their work contributes to overall project goals while taking personal responsibility for quality and safety. Castle building is like a complex dance where everyone must know their steps while staying coordinated with the larger pattern, Master William explains. Individual excellence serves the group, and group success rewards individual effort. The passage of seasons creates distinct phases in castle construction that require different skills, present unique challenges, and offer varying opportunities for professional development. Understanding these rhythms becomes essential for planning work activities and managing the physical and psychological demands of long-term construction projects. Spring brings renewed energy and expanded possibilities as warming weather allows resumption of activities that were suspended during winter months. Stone cutting operations expand as quarries become more accessible. Mortar production increases as water sources become more reliable. Transportation of materials improves as roads dry out and become passable for heavy wagons. Spring is when we make up for progress lost during winter, explains Master William during planning sessions for the coming construction season. The next 6 months will determine whether we meet our completion targets or face extended construction into another. Winter season. The acceleration of work during spring requires careful coordination of multiple activities while managing increased demands on workers who may be out of condition after months of reduced activity. Training programs help workers regain full physical capacity while updating them on technical developments that occurred during winter planning periods. Summer represents peak construction season when all activities operate at maximum intensity. Long daylight hours allow extended work. Periods. Dry weather facilitates transportation of materials and operation of machinery. Warm temperatures support optimal mortar curing and stone cutting operations. But summer also brings maximum physical demands as workers perform heavy labor in conditions that can become dangerously hot. Heat exhaustion becomes a significant concern, requiring management strategies that balance productivity goals with health protection needs. Summer construction requires careful attention to human limitations, notes Jeffrey Carpenter. After implementing revised work schedules that provide additional rest periods during the hottest parts of the day, pushing workers beyond their capacity doesn't increase productivity. It creates health problems that reduce overall effectiveness. You're assigned to assist with mortar production, which means learning to recognize the subtle visual and tactile indicators that distinguish proper mixtures from inadequate ones. The knowledge can only be gained through experience and mistakes. During the learning process can result in waste of expensive materials. The crane operations that dominate the upper levels of construction prove to be marvels of medieval mechanical engineering. These wooden machines use counterweight systems and pulley arrangements to multiply human strength, allowing crews to lift loads that would be impossible to move by direct muscle power. But the cranes also represent complex mechanical systems that require careful maintenance and skilled operation. Understanding their capabilities and limitations becomes essential for anyone working in areas where crane operations occur regularly. These machines are powerful tools that make castle construction possible, explains Master William during a training session. But they're also potentially dangerous equipment that demands respect and careful handling. Learning to work safely around crane operations is essential for survival at upper construction levels. The training you receive emphasizes safety awareness rather than fear, helping you develop practical skills for recognizing and responding to potential problems before they become serious incidents. This approach creates competent workers who can function effectively in challenging environments. By the end of your first week, you've gained basic proficiency in stone transport, mortar preparation, and scaffold work. These skills represent the foundation for more advanced training that will develop over months of practical experience. More importantly, you've begun to understand the collaborative nature of castle construction, where individual competence contributes to group success. November gives way to December, and the Welsh winter arrives with conditions that transform the already demanding construction site into an environment that tests everyone's endurance and adaptability. Working outdoors for 12 hours a day in temperatures that regularly drop below freezing requires developing new strategies for maintaining productivity while protecting health and safety. The wooden scaffolding systems become more challenging when covered with ice and snow, requiring extra caution during movement between levels. Workers must wear thick gloves that reduce tactile sensitivity while handling tools and materials. Metal implements become painful to touch with bare skin, making many routine tasks more difficult and time-consuming. Winter is when construction work becomes truly demanding, Master William announces during a morning assembly. Those who can adapt to these conditions will gain valuable experience with advanced techniques. Those who cannot should consider requesting transfer to indoor activities. The direct approach reflects practical recognition that not everyone is suited for the physical and psychological demands of winter construction. Rather than creating pressure for universal participation, the project provides alternatives that allow workers to contribute according to their capabilities. The most immediate challenge is maintaining body temperature during extended periods of outdoor work. Workers develop layering strategies using available clothing, learn to recognize the early signs of cold-related problems, and establish rotating schedules that allow periodic warming by forge fires. Keep moving and stay as dry as possible, advises Jeffrey Carpenter, an experienced foreman who has supervised winter construction projects. The moment you stop generating body heat through activity, the cold begins affecting your coordination and judgment. The stone and mortar used for construction require special handling in winter conditions. Mortar must be mixed using heated water and protected from freezing during the curing process. Stone becomes more brittle in extreme cold and requires careful handling to prevent cracking. Tools require more frequent maintenance due to the stress of winter use. Water systems used for mortar mixing and stone cleaning freeze regularly, requiring crews to break ice and warm water before beginning each day's work. This preparation adds time to already full work schedules while requiring additional fuel for heating water and maintaining workspace temperatures. The shortened daylight hours force adjustments to work schedules and lighting arrangements. Torches and oil lamps provide illumination for essential tasks, though they create fire hazards while producing smoke that can reduce visibility. Working by artificial light requires enhanced attention to safety while performing tasks that demand precision and coordination. But winter construction also provides opportunities for developing specialized skills that aren't available during warmer months, ice cutting for construction cooling systems, snow removal techniques that protect work areas, cold weather maintenance procedures for tools and equipment. Winter teaches lessons about resourcefulness and adaptation that serve workers throughout their careers. Observes Thomas Whitmore, men who learn to work effectively in these conditions develop confidence and competence that make them valuable employees on any construction project. The first major winter challenge occurs during your 6th week, when a severe storm forces suspension of outdoor work for 3 days while crews focus on protecting completed construction from weather damage. The response demonstrates the sophisticated planning required for successful winter construction. Storm preparation is as important as daily construction activities, explains Master William. Unprotected work can be damaged by extreme weather, requiring expensive repairs that eliminate progress made during previous weeks. The storm response involves covering vulnerable stonework, securing loose materials that can become projectiles in high winds, and ensuring that scaffolding systems remain stable despite ice loading and wind stress. These activities provide valuable training in construction protection techniques. Food requirements increase significantly in cold weather, creating additional logistical challenges for project administrators. Workers need more calories to maintain body temperature and energy levels, but transportation of supplies becomes more difficult during winter months. You can't perform demanding physical work on insufficient food, explains Martin DeGray after receiving expanded rations. Winter construction requires adequate nutrition to maintain health and productivity. Housing conditions improve somewhat as administrators recognize that sick workers reduce project efficiency. Additional fuel is provided for heating worker accommodations, and medical supplies are expanded to address cold-related health problems. By January, the workforce has adapted to winter conditions while maintaining reasonable productivity levels. The experience demonstrates that challenging environmental conditions can be managed through proper planning, adequate resources, and realistic expectations about what can be accomplished under adverse circumstances. As winter progresses into spring, your growing experience with castle construction reveals the sophisticated engineering principles that underlie successful fortress design. Every aspect of the building process reflects centuries of accumulated knowledge about military architecture, structural engineering, and construction management refined through practical experience. The foundation work that anchors the entire structure represents some of the most challenging technical work on the project. Excavating stable foundations in waterlogged ground requires sophisticated drainage systems and careful soil management. The foundations must be deep enough and strong enough to support walls that will rise over 60 feet while resisting the horizontal forces generated by siege engines. Foundations are invisible once construction is complete, but they determine whether the castle stands for decades or collapses during its first serious test. Explains Master William during a training session on structural principles. Every decision we make about foundation design affects the performance of the entire fortress. The mathematical calculations required for foundation design exceed anything you've encountered in village construction. Load distributions, soil pressures, and structural tolerances must be calculated using principles derived from Roman engineering texts and refined through medieval experience. Wall construction techniques prove equally sophisticated. The massive stone walls that characterize castle defense aren't simply piles of rocks held together with mortar. They're carefully engineered structures that use multiple layers of different stone types arranged in patterns that distribute stress and resist penetration by siege weapons. Castle walls are defensive machines built from stone and mortar. Master Thomas explains while demonstrating advanced masonry techniques. Every course of stone contributes to the wall's ability to absorb and deflect the impact of catapult stones. Battering rams and siege towers. The inner and outer faces of castle walls consist of carefully fitted dressed stones that present smooth surfaces to attackers while providing weather protection for the wall core. Between these faces lies rubble fill that's precisely graded and consolidated to create maximum resistance to penetration. Learning to work on these complex wall systems requires understanding how different components interact to create unified defensive structures. Stone selection, mortar composition, and construction sequencing all affect the final performance of completed walls. Everyone to their limits, while maintaining standards of craftsmanship that leave no room for significant error. William de Chester gathers the group for a final briefing before you enter the construction site. His words provide a realistic introduction to what lies ahead. What you're about to see will be unlike anything you've experienced before. This is the largest construction project in Wales, possibly in all of Britain. We're building a fortress that must be perfect in every detail, because lives will depend on its strength. That means working under demanding conditions, handling materials that require extreme care, and maintaining concentration even when you're exhausted, cold, and homesick. He pauses to let this information sink in before continuing. Some of you will find this work too challenging and will request release from service. That's unfortunate but understandable. Those who persist will gain skills and experience that will serve them throughout their lives. Most importantly, you'll contribute to creating something that will outlast us all. Dawn breaks cold and gray over the construction site, revealing a scene that exceeds your expectations about the scale and complexity of the project. Hundreds of workers are already active, despite the early hour, organized into crews that coordinate their efforts across different sections of the massive construction like a well-rehearsed performance. The activity is intense. Hammers striking stone, saws cutting timber, wheels creaking under heavy loads. Foremen calling instructions. Workers sharing information about materials and techniques. The air carries the dust of stone cutting and the smoke of forge fires, creating an atmosphere that speaks of serious industrial activity. But it's the height of the construction that really captures your attention. Wooden scaffolding rises in complex networks that seem to challenge gravity itself, supporting platforms where masons work to place stones at impressive elevations. Workers move along narrow walkways with surprising confidence, carrying tools and materials with practiced efficiency. "Stop staring and follow me," orders Robert Clayworth, the foreman who's been assigned to train new workers. "You have 5 minutes to understand the basic layout before you start earning your wages." The orientation tour provides essential information delivered at a rapid pace. The stone cutting area, where master masons shape blocks to precise specifications using techniques refined over centuries. The mortar mixing stations, where crews work continuously to produce the binding material that holds the entire structure together. The timber yards, where carpenters prepare the wooden framework that supports stone construction. Most importantly, Clayworth shows you the crane systems that lift massive stones to the upper levels of construction. These wooden machines represent advanced medieval engineering, capable of raising blocks weighing several tons to heights of over 100 feet. They require perfect coordination between ground crews and operators to function safely and efficiently. Pay attention to the crane signals, Clayworth emphasizes, pointing to a series of flags and hand gestures used to coordinate lifting operations. Mistakes cause serious problems. If you don't understand the signal, ask questions before proceeding. Your first assignment is as part of a ground crew, responsible for moving dressed stones from the cutting area to the base of the main crane. The work seems straightforward. Use wooden rollers and rope systems to transport blocks that typically weigh between 500 and 1,000 pounds each. But the reality proves far more complex than anyone initially explains. The stones must be moved across uneven ground that's frequently muddy and crowded with workers engaged in other tasks. Timing is critical because the crane crews work on strict schedules that coordinate with masons waiting for specific blocks. Routes must be carefully planned to avoid interfering with other activities while ensuring that stones arrive at precisely the right moment. Most challenging, the blocks themselves are unwieldy loads that can shift unexpectedly if not properly secured. A 1,000-pound stone that tips over can cause serious injuries, and the rope systems used to control movement can fail under extreme tension, creating situations that require immediate response to prevent problems. Your first significant challenge comes during your second hour on the job. A rope securing a particularly large block develops a weak point under stress and snaps just as the stone reaches the crane base. The sudden release of tension sends the rope whipping through the air, and the stone shifts dangerously before the Weightfittersuns. Crew can regain control. Another worker, a laborer named Stephen from a village near Manchester, is struck by the whipping rope and knocked unconscious. He lies motionless where he fell, clearly injured but not obviously in immediate danger. The incident serves as a dramatic reminder that even routine tasks involve significant risks when performed with heavy materials. "Get into the medical station," orders Clayworth, showing appropriate concern while maintaining focus on the work. Schedule. The crane crew needs to continue operations. 2 workers carry Stephen to a treatment area where injured personnel receive basic medical attention. The response is professional and competent, though limited by the medical knowledge and equipment available at a medieval construction site. "That's how it works here," explains Martin de Grey, an experienced laborer who's worked on royal construction projects for several years. "People get hurt, people recover or they don't, and new people get recruited as needed. The work continues, because the project is more important than any individual incident." The matter-of-fact acceptance of workplace injuries is sobering to someone accustomed to village life, where every incident affects the entire community. But castle construction operates according to different principles, where individual problems are absorbed by the larger organization. Stephen recovers consciousness within a few hours and returns to light duties after several days of rest. His experience serves as a valuable lesson about the importance of constant attention to safety, but it also demonstrates that the construction project has systems in place for dealing with the inevitable challenges of dangerous work. Your first week on the construction site provides a comprehensive education in the sophisticated techniques and demanding standards that characterize royal castle construction. Each day brings new understanding of skills that take years to master, along with growing appreciation for the expertise of the craftsmen who make complex engineering projects possible. Working at height becomes routine as you learn to trust the wooden scaffolding systems that provide access to upper levels of construction. The scaffolding represents ingenious medieval engineering, carefully calculated frameworks that can support enormous weights, while remaining stable in high winds. Learning to work confidently on these structures requires overcoming natural fears while developing practical skills for moving safely in three-dimensional work environments. You witness several challenging situations during your first week that test both equipment and human skills. Workers must navigate narrow walkways while carrying heavy tools, coordinate complex lifting operations that involve multiple crews, and maintain concentration during long work periods at dangerous heights. These experiences teach you to respect both the capabilities and limitations of medieval construction techniques. Stone cutting proves to be far more sophisticated than you initially assumed. Master masons work with mathematical precision to create blocks that fit together with minimal gaps, using hand tools to achieve tolerances that seem impossible given the technology available. Watching these craftsmen work provides insight into skills developed through decades of practice and passed down through generations of builders. Every stone must fit perfectly into its designated position, explains Master Edmund, demonstrating cutting techniques. A block that's even slightly wrong in its dimensions can weaken the entire wall structure. We're not just cutting stone. We're creating the components of a defensive system that must perform flawlessly under extreme stress. The precision required for quality stonework creates constant pressure for accuracy, while working under time constraints that don't allow for extensive revision of mistakes. This tension between speed and quality represents one of the fundamental challenges of castle construction. Mortar mixing represents another area where apparent simplicity conceals sophisticated technical requirements. The binding material that holds stone walls together must be mixed to exact proportions using lime, sand, and water of specific qualities. Too much water creates weak joints. Too little prevents proper bonding, and impurities can compromise the chemical reactions that create strong connections. Mortar is what transforms individual stones into unified structures, explains Master Thomas, the project's chief engineer. Excellent mortar makes ordinary stones into excellent walls. Poor mortar makes excellent stones into structural liabilities. You're standing on a narrow wooden scaffold, 50 feet above the ground, with nothing but a thin rope around your waist preventing a dangerous fall. The morning mist clings to the half-built stone walls around you, and your hands are already numb from the October cold. Below, the construction site buzzes with activity, but up here, balanced on planks that creak ominously with every movement, you're alone with your fears and a 1,000-pound block of limestone that needs to be precisely positioned. Welcome to medieval castle construction, where danger is a daily companion and your life depends on skills you're still learning. This is 1277, and you've just discovered why being a castle builder was one of the most challenging, demanding, and perilous jobs in medieval England. The autumn of 1277 brings news that changes everything for working men across northern England. King Edward I has commissioned the construction of Caerphilly Castle in Wales, a massive fortress designed to secure his conquest of the Welsh lands. The project will require hundreds of skilled craftsmen, laborers, and specialists, and the royal recruiters are traveling from town to town, offering wages that seem almost too good to believe. You're working as a farmer in a small village near Chester when the recruitment party arrives. The harvest has been poor this year. Too much rain in the spring, followed by drought in the summer, and the prospect of steady wages through the winter months seems like salvation. The royal agents promise 12 pence per day for skilled masons, 8 pence for carpenters, and even 4 pence for common laborers. More money than most villagers see in a month. His Majesty requires the finest craftsmen in England, announces Sir Geoffrey de Mortimer, the knight overseeing recruitment. This castle will be the greatest fortress ever built in Wales, a monument to English power that will stand for 1,000 years. Those who help build it will share in the glory of serving their king. The rhetoric sounds impressive, but you notice that Sir Geoffrey doesn't mention the details that really matter to working men. The working conditions, the safety provisions, the likelihood of actually completing such an enormous project. He doesn't talk about the challenges of construction work, or the fact that castle builders face some of the most demanding physical and technical challenges in medieval England. What he does emphasize is the urgency of the project. The castle must be completed as quickly as possible to secure the newly conquered territory before Welsh rebels can organize effective resistance. This means working through the winter, pushing crews to their physical limits, and maintaining incredibly demanding standards of craftsmanship. We need men who aren't afraid of hard work, Sir Geoffrey continues, his eyes scanning the assembled villagers for signs of strength and determination. Men who can work at heights, handle heavy machinery, and follow complex instructions without hesitation. The weak and the uncommitted need not apply. It's a calculated appeal to masculine pride and economic necessity, designed to recruit workers while preparing them for the challenging conditions they'll face. The men who volunteer will be committed to months of intensive labor in a foreign territory, far from their families and the familiar routines of village life. You find yourself stepping forward along with 24 other men from your village. The promise of steady wages outweighs your instinctive concerns about the challenges involved. Besides, how difficult could construction work really be? You've helped build houses and barns throughout your life. Surely castle construction is just larger-scale versions of the same basic tasks. This assumption will prove to be dangerously naive. The recruitment process itself provides the first hints of what lies ahead. Sir Geoffrey and his assistants examine each volunteer carefully, checking for signs of physical strength and mental resilience. They assess your hands for calluses that indicate experience with physical labor. They evaluate your build to determine whether you're strong enough for heavy lifting. They ask probing questions about your family situation to ensure you don't have obligations that might interfere with total commitment to the project. Any man who signs on will be bound to the project until completion. Sir Geoffrey warns, abandonment of royal service is considered a serious offense. You'll work when ordered, where ordered, and how ordered. Your commitment to the king must be absolute until this castle is finished. The legal implications are sobering. By volunteering for royal construction work, you're essentially committing to months of intensive labor with limited options for changing your mind. You'll have no right to leave if conditions prove more difficult than expected, and no guarantee that the work will match the descriptions provided during recruitment. The alternative, remaining in a village where the failed harvest has left. Most families facing serious hardship. Seems even worse. At least castle work offers the possibility of surviving the winter with some money to show for your efforts. The journey to the construction site takes 5 days through countryside that becomes increasingly unfamiliar as you move west into Wales. The recruitment party has assembled nearly 200 workers from villages across northern England, creating a mobile community of craftsmen, laborers, and specialists who will spend the next months working together under conditions that none of them fully understand. The group includes master masons who have worked on cathedral construction, experienced carpenters who specialize in complex timber work, blacksmiths who can forge the specialized tools needed for castle construction, and common laborers who provide the physical strength for moving massive quantities of stone, timber, and equipment. But it also includes men like yourself, farmers and villagers with limited construction experience, who have been recruited primarily for their willingness to work rather than their specialized skills. This mix of expertise and inexperience will create significant challenges as the project develops. The route to Wales takes you through landscapes that show evidence of recent military campaigns. The countryside bears the marks of conquest, abandoned farmsteads, hastily rebuilt bridges, and roads that show signs of heavy military traffic. The local population regards your group with suspicion and wariness, understanding that you're part of the occupation force that has changed their lives. Stay together and remain alert, warns William de Chester, the master mason who's been placed in charge of the work crew. These people view us as invaders, and they're not entirely wrong. We're here to build a fortress that will ensure their continued subjugation. The reality of working in recently conquered territory adds another layer of complexity to an already challenging undertaking. Castle builders will be working in the open, visible to local populations who understand that disrupting construction would serve their own interests. Security measures will be necessary, but they'll also interfere with efficient work practices. The journey also provides your first opportunity to observe the hierarchical structure that will govern life on the construction site. Master craftsmen like William de Chester receive preferential treatment in terms of food, accommodations, and decision-making authority. Skilled workers like carpenters and smiths occupy a middle tier with decent conditions and some influence over daily routines. Common laborers are treated as necessary resources whose comfort is a secondary consideration. Understanding your place in the hierarchy is essential for success, explains Thomas Whitmore, a carpenter who has worked on several royal construction projects. The masters make the technical decisions, the skilled men implement them, and the laborers provide the physical effort. Each level has its role and responsibilities. The social dynamics of construction work reflect broader patterns of medieval society, but they're intensified by the demanding nature of castle building. Workers who might have some degree of autonomy in their home villages find themselves part of a vast organizational machine that values efficiency and expertise above individual preferences. As the group approaches the construction site, the scale of the project becomes apparent. Caerphilly Castle is being built on an artificial island in the middle of a lake, with massive earthworks and water defenses that require moving thousands of tons of soil and stone. The main castle will rise from this foundation like a stone mountain, with walls thick enough to withstand siege engines and towers tall enough to dominate the surrounding countryside. "Sweet Mary and Joseph," mutters one of the laborers as the site comes into view. "How are we supposed to build something that enormous?" It's a question that will challenge everyone involved in the project. The engineering requirements are staggering, the logistical demands are overwhelming, and the timeline is ambitious beyond anything most workers have experienced. Success will require pushing